It is a topic horsemen are loath to discuss, but the reality of a cloned thoroughbred racehorse is getting closer. We'll discuss the latest advancements on that front and what they mean on this edition of In the Gate.
They're in the gate!
They're in the gate!
In the gate!
They're in the gate!
It's a head-bobbing finish!
This is In the Gate, ESPN's Thoroughbred Racing Podcast. My name is Barry Abrams. You can follow me on Twitter at BAbramsVoice or on Facebook at Barry Abrams Voice. You can also get us on our YouTube channel by searching In the Gate Podcast. You can get us on SoundCloud as well. You can download us from the iTunes Store. You can get us at TuneIn.com or the TuneIn app. You can get us on that little pink podcatcher app on your phone that you didn't even know you had. And now you can subscribe to In the Gate in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. For the full In the Gate experience, subscribe now in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. One of the tricks of the trade for us journalists is to craft an eye-catching beginning to our stories in order to get your attention and make you want to continue with what we've created. For a video story, that would be a series of beautiful pictures and evocative comments or clips. A written story might start with a prosaic turn of phrase, like Grantland Rice writing about the 1924 college football game between Notre Dame and Army by starting, "Outlined against a blue-gray October sky, the four horsemen rode again." Well, just before New Year's, I came across an article online that wasn't written nearly so lyrically, but the opening line certainly got my attention. This was from a New Zealand website, horsetalk.co.nz. The article started with the phrase, "A leading horse cloning company has raised the prospect of using gene editing to produce horses with superior athletic ability." Whoa, wait a minute, what? Did that say a leading horse cloning company? How many horse cloning companies are there? Okay, that got my attention. What is this leading horse cloning company? What exactly are they doing? And what are the implications? Well, the company is called Kheiron Biotech, and it's based in Argentina. We're now joined by Daniel Sammartino, founder and CEO of Kheiron's parent company. So the idea, Mr. Sammartino, I guess, is to focus on a particular gene to create bigger, more muscular horses. How does the process work, in as lay terminology as you can?
Well, Mr. Abrams, first, it's a great honor to receive your call, and I'm very thankful to your audience as well. The process, we started a cloning company 4 or 5 years ago. A group of scientists brought this initiative, and I was immediately captivated by it. These scientists had already cloned 2 horses before, so they had the experience. And we started from scratch. And after 4 years, now we are proudly claiming that to be the most advanced horse cloning company in the world. We say that for 3 or 4 reasons. First, we achieved the highest productivity. Since we started, we had 96. Since the first polo pony that we cloned that was born in 2013 was the first polo pony cloned in Latin America. We had 96 after that, and we are still a few to come this season, so we are reaching 100. This year we had 12 clones of the same donor in the same season. So first, productivity, 46 or almost 50 clones a year is very productive. So 96 in 4 years is quite impressive. Secondly, we had 100%, what we call 100% health efficiency. The clones, horse clones, have been historically characterized by having some health problems, syndromes, situations. About 50% of them had some type of health situation. For several years now, we had 0 health problems. We have better health with clones than with conventional breeding. And finally, what really put us on the most advanced edge is that we generated the first embryo genetically edited in the world. We achieved that last November, and we are working on that new line of research. The health situation is going to be published in the Cloning and Stem Cells Journal, which is a very prestigious scientific magazine that will be published in the next couple of months.
Now, wait a minute here. Are we talking gene splicing, where you alter just one sequence in a whole gene just to alter one characteristic? Or are we talking about out-and-out cloning here, where you create a whole new organism without sexual reproduction?
Well, as you say, it's two different things. Pure plain cloning is the story where we feel that we are the most advanced cloning horse company in the world. But gene editing is being our new line of research, and we achieved our first embryo. We still decided not yet to transfer those embryos. We are still working on gene editing. Gene editing using CRISPR-Cas9 technique, which is a sort of biological scissors, allow you to cut precisely in the DNA chain the gene that you want to say. Sorry, I'm not very technical, but the gene you want to remove, you use this very precise biological scissors, and you can insert the gene you want to. Particularly, we are working on the myostatin gene, which is a gene that regulates muscular mass. It's a muscle growth regulator, so it affects resistance and speed. But let me here make a difference. We are working, our main line of research, our aim is not aimed at modifying any gene or any gene in the horse. Our line of research is what we call precision genetic progress, is what we are trying to do, or we're doing, is that we are understanding better the genome of the horse and its sequencing, and use this powerful tool that is CRISPR to pick up the attributes of the genes you want and insert it in another particular DNA chain. So in practical terms is that you are accelerating evolution. We are not doing anything that you cannot find in nature. Eventually, with conventional crossing, over time, crossing the genes would act randomly. But eventually what you do is you aim at better and better horses with better and better attributes. So eventually you may find a specific horse. But what we are doing is, by using this technique, is we are accelerating that. So by crossing those bloodlines, we would arrive at the same situation, but maybe 20 years from now. So we are doing this in the lab, and we are accelerating that. But it's not a horse that you would not find eventually in nature.
But you're not actually cloning the horse. This is more like gene editing.
You use the cloning technique to do that, because you have to produce a clone, because that horse doesn't exist anymore. So you use the clone. It's a sort of a sum of two procedures, the biological scissors with CRISPR and the cloning, to arrive to the final result.
So let me get this straight. This is about suppressing a gene sequence that limits the muscle mass a horse can develop. If you squelch that gene, then horses can presumably pack on more muscle without any limitation. But we all know that a horse's legs are somewhat spindly and very fragile. So what concern do you have that you're creating a new breed whose muscles are too big for its bones?
Well, in reality, we have decided not to concentrate on that project. We as I said, because you have two options. You can work on trying to modify genes, or you can work on trying to replace genes. And we decided to create a self-imposed boundary on that. Because, our company works on many projects, and it's much more than horses and much more than cloning horses. Horses is just one part. And if I had to divide in two frontiers, two decisions that we made, two lines, that we made is one is for sport animals. For sport animals, we decided not to touch or knock or whatever any gene. We are just mixing the genes in a predetermined way to obtain better results. But it will not be a super muscle horse. It will be a horse that you can find by crossing bloodlines naturally. And we decided that's a boundary it's a self-imposed boundary we will maintain. On our other research projects, because you can imagine that we can use these powerful tools for many other things like other animal species like cows or pigs, where we have projects for feeding purposes of these animals for humans or medical purposes of using genetically modified animals. There we don't have a self-imposed limit. There we will work on transgenics and modified genes, and there the limits would be imposed by regulations, but not by a self-imposed standard. But with horses, our concentration now is more not on touching, as you said, or knocking or modifying genes that could affect the muscles of the horse. As I said, there are priorities in our company, and one is the welfare of animals.
We're chatting here on In the Gate with Daniel Sammartino of Kheiron Biotech, a company that specializes in cloning animals. In just a few minutes, we'll get a different perspective on cloning animals. But in order to have a business, any business, there has to be a demand for a product. The idea of cloning is very controversial in the horse racing sector of the market, as you would imagine. So where does the demand for cloned horses come from?
At the moment, the first sport that developed clones is polo. Polo is admitted clones, and the first one who cloned polo ponies was Adolfito Cambiaso, who is the best polo player in the world. And he used to win the Open in Argentina, which is the most demanding tournament in the world. He used 6 clones of his most famous quartetera. So he proved that clones work. Jumping horse is coming after. Endurance horse is coming after.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Here's the thing. In 2013, the International Federation for Equestrian Sports lifted a ban on cloned horses for competition. The organization said that cloned horses are unlikely to have any advantage over horses bred traditionally. That doesn't seem to be what you're saying. How do you view the stance of the Equestrian Sports Federation?
Well, first, I have a particular view on cloned horses that some people against cloning said that it's not good for breeding. It's not good for breeding because it stops evolution, it stops genetic evolution, which is all the game is all about. Since man exists, it has been in continuous search for genetic evolution. And in reality, I don't believe that. I think that cloning should not be as a substitution of traditional breeding. Cloning, I think, it should be as an additional tool, a very potential, a very useful tool to help breeding, because it opens more opportunities to breed. You have more mares to try more stallions, and therefore trial and error is a way of creating a better horse. Geldings could be back to reproduction. And if you talk to Adolfito about his clones, he's saying that some of his clones are even better than the original. So it's a horse. It's a twin. It's an identical twin separated in time. It depends on how you breed the horse. It depends on how you do the breaking, how you do the training. The horse could be better, could be similar, could be worse. I think that the federation is right. It should be treated as another horse. There is no reason why shouldn't be allowed to compete. That's my personal opinion, at least in some sports. I understand that thoroughbred racing horses is totally prohibited, but in other sports where are more open or they have accepted cloning, I don't see genetic editing as something different to cloning. As I said, we are creating horses that could be found in nature naturally. So I don't see any particular reason to ban that. So I think that they are right.
So you don't think the horses that you're breeding or creating would have an advantage genetically over other horses? Then why are you doing this?
It's a faster way of achieving a better horse. That's the reason why we are doing it. But you could prove wrong. I mean, it's like crossing. You cross lines, blood lines, and you think you are picking up the right stallion and the right mare, and your filly is going to be better than his parents, and it happens not to be. And with this is the same. The thing is that if you are picking up the right genes, you might eventually come with a better horse. But I think you have to see it as another breeding tool. That's the way of looking into it, in my opinion, not as a solution to any problem.
Well, having said that, the ability to engineer an animal's genetics, equine, human, or otherwise, is a hugely controversial topic of which we as a society have not even scratched the surface. How has that idea entered into your approach, your process, as well as potential pushback?
Well, let me talk about the vision we have for our company. Our purpose is to become a provider of solutions for better food for mankind, better medicine for mankind. And this is editing animals without limits, because I believe that we have the obligation of making a contribution to humanity in that regard, with the exception of sports. In sports, we have a self-imposed boundary, because although sports is a business, our boundary is that we will not do any transgenic embryo. We will focus only on editing what could be naturally found in nature. So cutting and introducing genes that could be found normally in nature. So I think that reduces the controversy. So you will not find the super horse coming out from our lab. You will find a genetically maybe desired horse that proves to be good for some purpose, but if you analyze the DNA, you will not find any genetic transformation that could not have happened naturally in the horse.
Though we hear about new scientific breakthroughs practically every day, it still seems hard to imagine that it's really about time to deal with the reality of cloning and or genetically engineering animals. And oh, by the way, we people are animals too. Daniel Sammartino of Kheiron Biotech, thank you so much for a few minutes to discuss this.
Oh, Mr. Abrams, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.